Welcome to another episode of Conversations. My guest today is a young man, another one of those escapees from the Democratic Party who has had a challenging background, like many people. But this young man is someone that has a lot to say. And there's something about him that reminds me of Clark Kent. So welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dr. Carol Swain, the show where I get to select the guests and do what I want to do and talk about whatever we want to talk about. My guest today is Pierre Wilson, and he is a young man who is the national director of the Blexit Foundation. And Blexit is an organization started by Candace Owens that I am working with as well. So Pierre, welcome to my show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dr. Swain. Thank you so much for having me. Finally, right? We're here.
I know. And you have a remarkable background, but then like everyone I interview, they have a story, they have an interesting background. And so before we get to, okay, you left the Democratic Party, you're now conservative, tell us about how you grew up and just some of the challenges you faced as a young man.
Well, my story is not one that many people know would be my story. Some people talk to me and they say, oh, you must have come, especially the Democrats I talk to who wonder why I'm a conservative. They say, oh, you must have come from a silver spoon and had everything growing up. It was quite the opposite. My mom was a single mother. She struggled. I remember moving place to place because we were escaping bill collectors at the time. I remember multiple cars being repossessed because my mom just couldn't afford to pay it. I would always be moving to different neighborhoods, transferring to different schools, being forced to essentially make new friends. It was a very rough life. There was a lot of nights when my mom wasn't there. My older sister, who's 4 years older than me, who didn't know obviously how to be a mother at a young age, was trying to feed me and get me into bed at night, but she was also just trying to figure out what to do for herself. It was a lot of lonely nights where it was just my mom and I. My dad and I weren't very close. My parents had divorced when I was about 1 or 2. Their relationship wasn't the best relationship. It was pretty toxic. So they didn't get along with one another. And it kind of created a divide between the two of them that kind of spread, unfortunately, to my sister and I. And so we didn't see my dad often, maybe once every 2 weeks, if that. And in going over his house, it was a very difficult environment as well, because I think he harbored a lot of, animosity because he wasn't able to raise us, the way that he wanted to raise us, to be in a household, to have a say at the time, because my mom essentially she was the parent. She was the one who did everything for us. She was the one who set the rules. And my mom has a very, very strong personality. So if my dad did try to kind of insert anything, my mom would kind of shut it down. So it was a very toxic environment for me growing up. I got into, some people probably won't believe this about me, but I got into a lot of fights growing up as a kid. I was a very angry kid. I had so much negativity around me that I was releasing that in the worst ways, getting in trouble at school. Sometimes early in my academic career, I wasn't doing my studies the way that I should,
right.
Paying attention to my studies. And, it was a rough upbringing, but here I am today, by God's grace. So,
but Pierre, you come across as, very, I use Clark Kent because you're so mild, and you do seem, well, the people say the same thing about me in a sense. They say, you're classy, you're sophisticated, you're this, when I came from the worst kind of poverty. So there's something about the way you carry yourself. You carry yourself in a way that, people don't know your background or your story from looking at you from the outside. And I think that your posture and demeanor is something that is calming, it's soothing at a time when there's so much racial turmoil. I think that both of us are sort of packaged in a way that we can navigate those waters.
Yeah.
When people are angry, we're not angry, we're calm.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of my upbringing, I heard your story as well, which your story is incredible. I didn't know as much. I didn't know that much about your story to that extent. So just kudos to you really making it against all the odds, right? But I think one of the things, and you probably learned this too, is that type of life forces you to grow up quickly.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of why you see the Pierre you see today. I had to learn from an early age how to start doing things that people probably didn't learn until later in life. And I think it's so important. You hit on something about the demeanor, and as far as being calm when we're in these battles, letting your emotions overtake you leads to, the attitude and the demeanor and everything I was doing as a kid. Nothing good came from that part, right? Nothing good came from me being angry and being upset and fighting with emotions. But I did realize that there was what's the word I'm looking for? There is it's to me, it's an absolute blessing to just display a sense of calmness. And I think that helps other people.
It does.
You have to say more. Yeah,
I think so. And I find, and you're much younger, but I find that because I'm who I am and I am outspoken, it gives other people permission to speak. And I think you, as a young Black man, and the fact that you carry yourself in the way that you do, you're certainly a role model. And I've been to Blexit events, and there's so many young people and so many people, that are looking to you. And you have this mystique about you that I think is captivating. And I think that, that's something that's an asset that you are able to win others over. And we need more people that are calm, steady, non-angry.
Yeah, I agree. And you are the trailblazer, Dr. Swain. So I appreciate you because I watched you. I know we're going to probably get into some of my conservative journey, but watching you and your calm demeanor is part of why I'm here today. You resonated with me in a way that, I'm not saying people can't be loud and, whatever. I know there's different type of conservative leaders, but for me, hearing someone really break down things in a calm manner, in a fact-based manner is so important. And it helps someone like me really become outspoken about being conservative.
Well, this thing, again, I really feel connected with you. And for people that are that are watching this, we're not just trying to stroke each other's egos. But I think that I love people and I care about people. And I realize even the ones that are angry, that they're angry, they're frustrated. I understand frustration. I don't have to get angry because they're angry. And you're not going to reach someone if they start shouting and you start shouting back. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not always so calm at home. When I get home, I want to relax. And so if someone starts needling me, about politics when I'm at home, I may raise my voice a little bit because I feel like that should be my sanctuary, that I don't necessarily want to engage in a political debate or hear about the latest video about what the police did. I don't want someone asking me, well, why did police do this or why did police do that? I don't mind answering some of those questions. But, for the most part, I am the same, but I can raise my voice. And I've done it a few times on national TV. People love it, but I don't like it. I think, oh, gee, that person really got to you. Yeah. And we're going to take a break. And when we return, then we can go more into this discussion about how we deal with people. So thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this word from our sponsor.
Conversations with Dr. Carol Swain is made possible by Cooper Steel, a family-owned business that provides the steel fabrications for some of the greatest buildings across the United States. 60 years ago, Kenneth and Faye Cooper founded their company in Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Cooper Steel believes in sponsoring Carol Swain because we believe as she does, you build strong, you stand strong.
What started as a vision and now a nationally recognized and operated company that remains true to its founders' Judeo-Christian values and principles, Cooper Steel is committed to excellence, responsibility, and community. Cooper Steel's motto is build strong, stand strong. They treat their employees and customers like family. Thank you to Cooper Steel for standing strong with Conversations with Dr. Carol Swain. Learn more about our generous sponsor at coopersteel.com. Black Eye for America is enlightening the nation.
I would definitely encourage people to buy the book to learn a little bit more about what critical race theory is actually rooted in, Marxism.
Buy the book at bethepeoplenews.com or wherever books are sold.
Just so we can have logical and practical conversations with people who are getting misinformation and disinformation from social media, from their friends.
Now an Amazon bestseller and available on Kindle.
Absolutely. It's a must-read book.
Pierre, before we went to break, you were about to say something.
No, I was going to share, first of all, the passionate Dr. Swain. I see why some people love that. They love to see that side of you, but I agree with you. I think you get more done by being calm. I was going to share about around the house. So my wife, we were just talking about this the other day. When I talk to my in-laws or my family, I never want to talk politics. And I think whenever we come to family events, they think, oh, Pierre's here. He's going to talk about politics. And it's quite the opposite. I'm like, no politics right now. I deal with this every day. I want to enjoy family time, talk about things outside of it. So I agree. I wanted to add in on that.
And something too, we both people of faith. Yeah. And I think that when I think about my success, of course, some of it came from my generation where we were patriotic. Yeah. We loved America. We believed we were living in the greatest nation in the world. And I still believe that. I believe in hard work. And my Judeo-Christian values and principles that a lot of people shared during the time that I was growing up. But when I'm around my young people, whether it's my grandkids or my nieces and nephews, those people, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about faith and hard work, and I want to find out what they're doing, and I want to encourage them. It's no reason or not the time to engage in topics where we're not going to agree about the police, and but with some of them, not all, we were never going to agree about Donald Trump, and so I wanted to use my time with my family in a way that we were not going to be just going back and forth bickering until someone got upset. So I think that if you're a person of faith, at the end of the day, we know that there is not a political solution that's going to solve America's problems. And those of us who follow Jesus, we know what the solution is. And I think that we're better off talking about our faith, not in a way, that's harassing someone, but just sharing all the wonderful things that's happening in our lives. Or even if things are not so wonderful, maybe things are not so good, but we're not falling apart. We're not, petrified of COVID, in the way an unbeliever would be.
I agree. I think it's so important. Anyone who's in politics too, as well, I think it's important to have a separate, make sure you have that separate time away from the political world, because no matter, what you do in the political world and how passionate you are, it can be draining as well. And sometimes you really just need that family time, that downtime to be able to talk about other things in life, find out how your nieces and nephews are doing, your cousins, find out what's going on and how you can help, because we tend to forget. When I say we, I
right. I know what you mean.
Yeah, we tend to forget the little things, right? The little things, the little pieces of advice, I love teaching my male cousins, how to, play, not just play sports, but also pick up a book and just really digest that book, right? Don't just run through it because the teacher just told you to do this assignment. The book is actually a lot cooler than you may realize. I'm a big reader, by the way. I read those, but it's just little things in life and having those moments. And I make sure with my kids that I'm raising them that way too. They're growing up in a household that is obviously going to be somewhat political because I'm in politics, but I don't want them to feel like their world is always political. I want them to enjoy the country they live in, because you are right. This is still the greatest country in the world. And I want them to know that and experience that and feel that.
And Pierre, I've met your wife, and she's sweet and gentle, and you're about ready to have a son. Asher is about ready to come into the world. And I really applaud you and the job that you're doing as a father and husband.
I appreciate that. Family is my ultimate joy. It's my ultimate joy.
And one of the things that I struggle with, and, like I call myself, and you may have not seen the meme, but I am a repository of unsolicited advice. And I don't always follow my advice, but I'm willing to dispense it. And right now, what I'm finding is it is so easy to become so busy that you don't have time for yourself. And so you don't have time to read. You don't have time to relax. There's something on the schedule every day. And I am making, a commitment to myself and my staff that are working with me that we're going to clear out some days where I have nothing on the schedule, where I can think, where I can write, where I can, connect, with myself and make sure that I'm spending the time with God and in devotions, because it's possible that success can destroy you because you're so busy running from thing to thing until you collapse. And I don't want to collapse, and you don't want to collapse. And the viewers out there that are like us, maybe we're type A, I don't know. I don't act like a type A person. Whatever we are, we have to recharge our batteries, right?
We do. So my wife and I have this thing now too, and I post this in my Instagram stories and social media all the time, but we say family time matters, and we've tried to make it into a trend for busy professionals, and just, self-care. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Sit out on the back porch sometimes and just soak in the sun and pick up a book,
yes,
let the breeze hit you. If you can get to a beach, go to the beach and turn everything off and just lay out in the sand, take a mountain trip. I mean, my grandfather used to always say this: you're no good to anyone else if you're no good to yourself. Like, if you can't even take care of yourself, you're no good to anyone else. Right. And we have to remember that we're busy trying to be everything to everybody. But if you break down, how can you help anyone else? So help yourself.
Wisdom for the mouths of babes. Thank you. So maybe you are a repository as well.
I am. By the way, I love all of your advice. I love it. You can throw it at me anytime without me asking. I love it.
No, but I'm receiving exactly what you just said, because it's very clear to me that I'm not having enough me time. And, I have a nice backyard. And when I'm sitting out there, I feel like I'm on vacation, but I'm not out there enough. And I want to, really recharge my batteries. So I'm probably telling the world more than they need to know, but I'm transparent. I have nothing to hide. So there, we've covered that.
Definitely do it, Dr. Swain. We need a healthy and a, passionate and a recharged Dr. Swain. We need you. You're so important to the movement. So, take care of yourself. We will be patient. We will be patient.
Okay, well, let's get back to you. And now Blexit. So you're the national director of Blexit. How did that happen?
So, I want to share really quickly the steps that kind of led up to that, because, it felt so night and day, like it just happened, but there were pieces that led to this journey. So, really quickly, as a young kid, I remember, I wasn't so much of a kid, but I was younger. There was an election going on at the time between Al Gore and George W. Bush. And at the time, I'm being raised in a Democrat household. You don't consider the Republican candidates. They're not even on the table in my household, right? You vote Democrat, that's that. I wasn't obviously old enough to vote, but I wasn't as passionate about politics as I am right now. So when the teacher said, hey, I want you guys to take this assignment home, I want you to write a paper on the person that you feel like you would support if you could vote based off of facts. So obviously there's a big research component to this paper. I did my research. The person that I decided that I would support was George W. Bush. I put a lot of time, a lot of effort into the paper. I was extremely excited. I ran to my mom, and she got halfway down the first page and she looked at it and she said, "You will not turn this in." Her words. He said, you will not embarrass this family. We do not support Republicans in this family. I still remember it like it was yesterday. So that was a stinging moment for me. But just to fast forward really quickly, in college, there was another moment in the election was between, there was a primary between Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Excuse me,
And
Pierre.
yeah.
I want to hear every detail of this story, but we have to take another break. And so when we return from this next break, I want you to tell us about that primary.
Okay.
So we'll be back after this word from our sponsor.
Dr. Carol Swain's Be the People, a call to reclaim America's faith and promise, newly released in paperback and audio with a new introduction, is a challenge to all Americans. If you are serious about being the best citizen you can be, this is the book for you. From addressing moral relativism to reclaiming the future, you'll understand why Dr. Swain is one of the most relevant voices in today's culture war. Are you ready to reclaim America's faith and promise? Purchase at bethepeoplenews.com/books or wherever books are sold. Cooper Steel is a family-owned business that provides the steel fabrications for some of the greatest buildings across the United States. 60 years ago, Kenneth and Faye Cooper founded their company in Shelbyville, Tennessee. What started as a vision and now a nationally recognized and operated company that remains true to its founders' Judeo-Christian values and principles. Cooper Steel's motto is, "Build strong, stand strong." Thank you to Cooper Steel for standing strong with Conversations with Dr. Carol Swain.
So Pierre, pick up on that story about Hillary Clinton and how you got involved in politics. Wherever you dropped off, I want you to pick up there.
Okay. So I think I'm going to back up for a quick second. I started at HBCU. So that's important to this story. It was a predominantly Black college. So in this forum, the college hosted a forum. It was a political forum, and the mic was going around the audience. And again, the audience is predominantly Black. At HBCU, and they were asking, who are you voting for, who you support, and just kind of state your reasons. And everyone, of course, was saying, oh, I'm supporting Obama over Hillary. I'm supporting Obama over Hillary, because again, no one's considering the Republican side. This is all a Democratic primary everybody's focused on. So the mic got to me, and I didn't really know, much about then Senator Obama. He was kind of a fresh face, and I wasn't a big fan of Hillary, but I wasn't really sure who I was going to vote for, and I knew it was going to be one of them, because again, I'm still a staunch Democrat. So I said that. I said, I'm still doing my research. I'm not sure who I want to support yet. I mean, Dr. Swain, you would have thought that I said I killed someone's cat. I mean, the looks that I got in that room when that happened, I mean, people were just shocked. They were shook. In fact, the young lady who got the mic after me, she goes, "How could you, as a Black man, say you don't support Obama?" And I said, "Well, I didn't say I don't support him. I said I didn't know who I was going to support yet. And I, even still, I'm waiting for her to continue her statement, because I'm saying, is there more to this? I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that made me realize I was different, but I still wasn't enough. And I remember the moment that changed me, I was watching some videos, and I came across a video actually of Candace Owens. She was standing outside of the White House with a megaphone, and she had a bunch of, Black people, Black Americans around her in MAGA hats. And I was like, what kind of foolishness is this? Like, I'm still a Democrat.
Well, so wait a minute. You didn't tell us if you turned that paper in, or that your mother said you would not turn it in.
I did rewrite the paper.
Shame on you, but go ahead.
I rewrote. Back then I'm like, Mama's always right, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
But this video, she's speaking about, the single motherhood rate, the abortion rate in the Black community, school choice, all these talking points. And I'm like, oh, she must have it wrong. So I'm like writing these things down. And I'm like, there's no way she's right about these things. She was right about each point, and it was shocking. So that began a deep dive. And Dr. Swain, again, I know this isn't about a bunch of kudos, but I just have to give you a ton of kudos, because I started watching your videos and I came across your PragerU video, and I'm just like, I felt so lied to. I felt so bamboozled. I felt like I didn't even have a choice. I mean, my family, my friends, my teachers, my college professors at the HBCU I started at, their Black radio hosts, and you turn on Black radio in Black America, your favorite celebrities and everyone is speaking Democrat talking points. I had never heard it this way. I had never heard it from this angle. And I was upset. And I knew I was a conservative. I knew I'd always been a conservative. I was just voting the wrong way.
Right.
So, that's my red pill moment. I got inspired by, everyone's speeches. I wanted to do some groundwork. And at the time, there was a new organization called Blexit, and Candace and Brandon were, doing these rallies across the country, but there was no community aspect to it at the time. So I took it upon myself. I didn't know if Candace would shut it down or if she would like it. I didn't know her at the time, but I said, we need to put Blexit in the community. So in North Carolina, I remember printing out material from the Blexit website, and I started door knocking and just spinning the message about talking to people about the message regarding liberation and freedom and conservative values, and going to meetings. Anywhere I could go, Dr. Swain, I was going. I was speaking.
That is just amazing.
I was doing whatever I could. She came across that work online. She DM'd me first, and Candace Owens sends you a DM, you respond, right? So she said she wanted to do a call. We got on a call, and here I am now, National Director of Blexit. We've launched 35 chapters. We have over 10,000 members. It's just been a blessing. It's been absolutely.
What a story. And it's so clear that you were called to do that, and you've done it with such passion. Yeah. And so I really applaud that. And just the fact that for a while they were pretending like they were just a handful of conservatives. Yeah. And what I'm seeing is a army. I'm seeing an army of young people that many people out there don't know about because they don't always get covered in the news. Yeah. And so I really appreciate what you're doing through Blexit and through the other work that you're doing.
I appreciate that. I think it is my calling. And if you would have asked me 2-3 years ago if this is where I would be, I would probably think you were crazy.
So you created your own job.
Yeah, I actually I named my title and everything. I created my entire role. And Candace and Brandon have been extremely supportive, and they have been very hands-on, with the direction of Blexit. But it's just been so exciting to build something that wasn't there. There was no chapter. There was no chapter division. There wasn't any on the ground movement per se. And here we are today. So God deserves the ultimate credit because, again, I listened to where he put me, because this is not the direction where my life was going. And this happened.
And Pierre, your parent, your mother, how does she feel today? Have you converted her?
My mom she's a very passionate passionate woman. She is still not so much on this. I think it's the Trump. I think she most of my family couldn't get over my support for Trump. That was a tough one for them. I don't think it's so much of my Blexit work. I think it was my outspoken support for President Trump, and who I still support. But my dad, on the other hand, he seems to be more open. I remember when we first had our conversation, he didn't seem like he was too open to it. But then he called me a week later and he's like, Pierre, I've been reading some things, and I see the Republicans freed the slaves, and he's just like educating himself, and he seems to be more open. So
where does your mother live?
My mom lives in Virginia. My dad lives in Florida.
Which part of Virginia? I'm a Virginia.
She lives in Chantilly, Virginia.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Chantilly. So you have to introduce us sometime. So,
It would be great for you guys to have a conversation. It would be.
I'm sure she's very proud of you and the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you also to tell our viewers about the Blexit Foundation. It is a foundation, which means it's a 501c3. It's not an arm of the Republican Party. It's nonpartisan. And so, talk a little bit about the foundation, because foundation is new, right?
It is. So the foundation the chapters are extremely new, but the foundation itself is fairly new. People think we've been around for years. We haven't. So just really quickly, I'll share. So we have 35 chapters. We are on the ground in every state. We do community cleanups, educational events for children, financial resource classes, different things like that. We actually have an after school program, a 2-week after school program that is starting today in Charleston, South Carolina.
That is wonderful.
Excited about. So it's a booming organization that is about free thinking and liberation of minority America.
And the website?
www.blexit.com. And if you want the chapter specifically, www.blexit.com/chapters.
And Pierre, thank you so much for being on my show, Conversations. And I look forward to seeing you at another Blexit rally.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Swain. It's been a pleasure.
Stay with us, and I'll be right back.
Many ask, why should I care about critical race theory? I'm Dr. Carol Swain, and along with Dr. Christopher Shore, we've authored a new book, Black Eye for America, How Critical Race Theory is Burning Down the House. Every American should care about CRT because this radical Marxist philosophy is dividing our country and taught to our children, but we're going to stop it. Endorsed by Dr. Ben Carson, Black Eye for America is a playbook on combating CRT.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Conversations. We had some remarkable young people in this nation. Pierre Wilson is one of them. And I hope you will check out the website for Blexit, the Blexit Foundation, that you will support the great work that they're doing. And I look forward to seeing you next week with another episode of Conversations. Make sure you follow us on social media and tell your family and friends about the show, which can also be found on the Binge TV network. It airs on more than 300 different apps.